Hi, yarn lovers. Welcome to another episode of Electric Sheep. I am Lady Pearl, and this is episode 3. We're going to go over the loop on cast on method and the long tail cast on method. I've tried to make them as visually easy to watch as possible. Oh, hi, Cole. He's 15 today, my little baby. And he just wants to be involved. So I've also done a slow motion movement camera action shot of the long tail cast on because it is kind of confusing. But hopefully it is all super easy to understand and you can start casting on and starting a new project right away. So here we go. All right. I'm going to show how to cast on. And this is going to be the easiest cast on that I know. And then I'll also go over one that is a little bit more difficult but a little bit more stable. You want to make a slip knot, which is literally just making a loop, as you can see, and then putting one of the tails, I like to do the shorter one, into the loop. So that makes like you're going to be making a knot, except don't let the short tail go all the way through, and then pull until it makes a knot. And that kind of, the slip knot, the way you know it's a slip knot and not a regular knot is that you could just pull that short tail and it comes totally out. It's gone. So again, loop, bring the short tail in, make a circle. And that is going to be your first stitch. I'm going to use this gold needle because it's easy to show what I'm doing. I tighten it to make it pretty small on there. And then the long tail cast on involves a lot of elaborate moving around. The easiest cast on that I know is just the loop on method. You hold the needle in your left hand and you bring it pretty close to, you bring the stitch pretty close to the edge, loop it over your thumb, take that twist, and then loop it on and tighten it. Over your thumb, loop it on. And you, once you get the kind of like feeling of it down, the rhythm of it down, you can go really fast. And really you don't even have to use your thumb if you can just make a loop easy enough, you know. It's literally just a loop that's backwards, you know, because if you're making a loop like this, it would still work, but it's not going to be as even. So you want it to turn and put it on. Or if they were all in one direction, it could be turned the other way. But so now I have, let's see, 3, 6, 10, 12. I have about 12 stitches. I'll do 15. And then you can start knitting. And you're going to want to keep the first row really tight. This one's fairly loose, but you want a happy medium between super loose, which would be like having big gaps in between, or super tight, which means that you're not going to be able to stick your needle through here. So like this is a good gauge where you can move them around a little bit, but there's not like long hanging gaps in between, because then you know that it's going to be too loose and it's going to look a little wonky on the bottom. Alright, and now I'm going to show you, so it's real easy to take those all off. Double cast on, a long tail cast on, which is essentially like knitting your first row. You're going to want to take a longer tail or tie the center pull tail out of your yarn and use the other end of your yarn and tie those together so you have 2 strings. But for this example, I will just make a longer tail and then make a slip knot. Again, loop, the loop in between, and make that kind of in the middle. Tighten it on, and this time the long tail cast on is easiest to do in your right hand. Tighten it on. And the way to hold this, it doesn't matter which thread is, or which yarn tail is in each hand, but you want to hold it, and then put your fingers, your thumb and your index finger in between, like that. And it's a weird kind of loopy, almost figure eight that you have to do with your needle. You want to go underneath, as close as I can. So if you're bringing your two fingers, make them parallel to the ground, underneath your thumb, lift up that yarn, and then over the back, and you bring it through and tighten it. So I'm going to do that a couple times. Underneath the thumb, over the one near the index finger, and tighten it. I hope that's easy to see. Underneath and over. You're literally just kind of catching the yarn to make a knot around your needle. And so that, as you can see, is a lot kind of nicer. It has an edge on the bottom instead of just loops like before. What you were doing with the loop-on method, it looks a little bit less structured on the bottom. As you can see, it almost looks like you knit a row down there, whereas these 3 stitches look like they're just kind of on the second row. So yeah, I'll do it a couple more times, maybe from a different angle. Under, over, under, over. Alright, so that's my favorite cast on. It's pretty good tension. It feels solid. When you take it off, it doesn't come apart right away, so if you drop stitches, it's not too big of a deal. But it also just comes apart when you pull on it. My favorite way of doing this also is tying the ends of both balls of yarn together, because then I don't have to do the guesswork of like, oh, how long to make 100 stitches is this yarn gonna take. I'm using 2 strings of yarn, and then I just cut them. I cut the one that I don't want to use at the end, so usually the outside one I will cut at the end, and I don't have to worry about it. So that's casting on. I hope it helped. I hope that the little slow-mo video at the end helped give you a really good visual of how it is to do the double long tail cast on. But really, the loop-on cast on is perfectly fine, and it's really easy to do. It's how I started probably every project I did for the first 2 or 3 years of knitting, and I still do it to this day when I want a loose, like, nice cast on. So my next video, I'm going to do knitting. So I'm going to teach the knit and purl stitch. And then after that, we can actually start going into some projects, which I'm super excited about. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.